Hello and welcome to Upfront. My name is Dean Thullner Veljacic and we are filming on the unceded Nanaimo traditional territory. On this episode of Upfront, I have the pleasure of sitting down with my guest Barney Ellis-Perry, who is the Executive Chief Officer of the Nanaimo Regional General Hospital. Hi Barney.
Hi, how are you?
Great, I'm really good. Thanks for coming out.
You're welcome. It's fun to be here.
Yeah, great. So we're going to jump right into this interview. So 4 years ago, you were living in the States.
Yep.
You got a job opportunity to move to Nanaimo.
Yep, doesn't everybody?
Well, not quite. But what were your expectations about coming back to Canada, especially to Nanaimo, for the Canadian healthcare system?
We were really excited to come back to the Canadian healthcare system. We had lived in Canada till 2014. We're both Canadian. And we would tell our American friends how great the Canadian healthcare system was. And that it's not perfect, but if something's critically wrong, you're going to get excellent healthcare. We talked about the BC Cancer Center and all of those great things we have, because our experience there was challenging. I had executive level health insurance, as best you could get. It was so confusing. You frankly, half the time never knew where to go. You would get care immediately, and you could, get a family doctor. If you go to a hospital, like at least ones we went to were like 5-star hotels. It was great. Then you get the bill.
Right.
My employer was spending a fortune there, like $1,800 a month, US. We had to spend $400 or $500 on top of that for our portion. Then you go and you have a procedure, and suddenly you're getting a bill for like $3,000, $4,000. Right. You have no idea why. They can't even tell you. It was insane. And these were for tiny little things. So many people we knew had, serious illnesses, and it was bankrupting them.
I hear it on the news all the time.
It's nuts, absolutely nuts. And the doctors spent half of their time just, chasing insurance claims and fighting with insurance companies because they want to deny everything. So we were so excited to come back. Like many people when they moved to central Vancouver Island, they come for the mountains and the ocean and all the reasons we came. Nobody, including ourselves, ever seems to look into what's the level of healthcare delivery in central Vancouver Island.
Mm-hmm. That was us. My husband and I moved here and I was like, oh, what's the healthcare system like here? Yeah.
You don't think about it. And, I have a certain amount of gray hair. I was very surprised to learn there's no cath lab.
Right.
And until next year, you have to drive to Victoria for radiation treatment.
Well, cath lab. So to be clear, I met you through Donna Hayes.
Yes.
Donna Hayes is the chair for Fair Care Alliance. For those that are watching, Donna Hayes has been on this show twice. You can YouTube that if you'd like. Fair Care Alliance is a group of individuals, all sorts of individuals, business leaders, politicians, medical, a plethora of people that unite in the spirit of trying to get fair health care for all individuals north of the Malahat. Also, I want to do a big shout out to Donna Hayes. I love Donna Hayes. Nanaimo is so lucky to have Donna Hayes on our side. She is an advocate for health care, all fair, equal health care, tertiary health care for all members of the community north of the Malahat, and she is relentless and she is driven, and we are so lucky to have her. Okay, but
I second everything you just said.
Right.
Second.
So I got introduced to you through Donna Hayes. So what is that relationship like?
Man, well, that's a complicated relationship. If we don't talk twice a day and text 3 times, something's seriously wrong. I think at last count, we were working together on about 10, maybe 11 projects of almost all healthcare related, from primary care right up to how do we build a new patient tower. I met Donna on my first week on the job, and basically we instantly found a partner in crime with each other. And she has this passion, as you've just said, for healthcare and advocating for that. And I was hired in order to get the foundation ready to be able to build and fundraise for a new patient tower and a cardiac catheterization lab. And so it was a bit of a match made in heaven. And we have been joined at the hip for the last 4 years. And you talked about the Fair Care Alliance. That is something that basically we co-created, and she chairs it and does the most incredible job. And there's doesn't seem like there's a problem she's not willing to fix. And so we've worked, as I say, incredibly closely for the last 4 years, but it's been a very interesting evolution of this community stepping forward, stepping up, saying this isn't good enough. And the Fair Care Alliance that you referenced has been a vehicle for that, to get people basically angry and saying this isn't good enough. the healthcare we have compared to Victoria, compared to Vancouver, we're all paying the same taxes. Why don't we have equal access to healthcare? Why do they have all of the tertiary programs in South Island and we have 3? Why?
Well, yeah, why is that? Why do we not have a cath lab? We have such a huge population north of Malahat.
And the oldest population in Canada.
Right, of
Hello?
course. Yeah, everyone that's
Who gets heart
retired wants
attacks?
to live here.
Hello? Why? There's a lot of reasons, and some of it goes, I think, and I'm, like you, fairly recent to this community. We are still probably observers in some ways. And part of that I observed is this was a community that was sort of blue collar oriented. People often, were so busy putting bread on the table for their families, working so hard. Wasn't the same orientation to say no. Like, we need equal access to healthcare. That was sort of just not in the DNA a little bit. And a lot of people I've met are like, well, yeah, of course we go to Victoria to get cardiac treatment. Or, yeah, I drove my husband to Victoria 39 times, 39 days in a row to get radiation treatment. And people were like, yeah, that's how we do it. And now people are like, yeah, we do that. That's not good enough. And I think we've changed that narrative a bit. And again, this sort of maybe not the same focus on standing up, whereas in Victoria, white collar decisions are made there, seat of power. And so you would never think of not having those services. And the way Island Health is structured, that's where the offices are. That's where they call them dyads, which are where the tertiary programs. So you'll have a lead for cardiology and for medical lead and a management lead, if you will. They're all located in Victoria for all of the disciplines, except for nephrology for kidney care, which is the only one that's here in Nanaimo. So that's just sort of been a historic thing that's happened, and nobody said, stop, that's not good enough. And now we are. And one last thing is, over the last 4 years, I believe we're now taken a lot more seriously as a community. We've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars with Fair Care Alliance to get that attention, to get that respect, and to get the political commitments. And now we are in a much tighter relationship with Island Health. So, we are working hand in glove together, when before they were a little bit like, what are you guys doing over there? I'm not so sure. And we never did anything that, would be untoward or anything around Island Health. We're here to support them. Our whole objective is to make healthcare better, just like theirs is. But now we're doing it much more in a partnership. And that feels a lot better. And I think this community, by coming together and standing, and you mentioned when you talked about Fair Care Alliance, it's a lot of leaders in our community, and they're standing shoulder to shoulder. There's no light between them, between the mayor, between Chief Wise with Sinamuk, between Tony Harris, the chair of our foundation, between the cardiologists, between other mayors. Like, it's everyone standing together. And that's I think a huge accomplishment. That is happening in healthcare. It's also happening in other parts of the city and other leadership areas, which is really exciting.
But I think, you mentioned the mayor. I recently had a conversation with Leonard, and I was talking about the demographic and how it had changed. I moved here in 2006. 2016, and literally the population's practically doubled. And the demographic that's moving here are younger people, younger families, and they want healthcare for their children. They want healthcare for their parents that are here, that are moving with them. And I think part of what you're talking about here is this coalition is building because the demographic is also building.
Absolutely.
And people deserve healthcare, right? Yeah. Okay. So you've been here for 4 years this week.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. How have things changed in the past 4 years, and should we have hope that things are improving?
It's interesting in healthcare because it's, how long is a piece of string? Right? Like, you accomplish a lot, but there's so much more to accomplish. The last 4 years have been really exciting. Before I arrived, they were already underway with creating a new intensive care unit, and so building the critical care building. And we since finished the intensive care unit, which was fantastic. It's now been open for over 2 years. That's 12 beds. Then we took under construction, and the foundation raised the money for all of the equipment in the ICU, and then the high acuity unit. That opened last summer. Mm-hmm. So now we have 24 beds of critical care. We went from having what was proven to be the worst ICU in Canada to one of the very best. It's absolutely state of the art. All the equipment in that whole building is funded by donors in this community. It's $10.5 million.
Great.
That's a huge lift. After that, we were then asked to raise money for a SPEC CT. I'll always get it wrong, but it's nuclear medicine, imaging, very, very powerful diagnostic tool. $2.9 million. Huge amount of money.
So where's this funding coming from?
It is coming from incredibly generous people in this community. So now we have that. We, as well, have raised money for equipment throughout NRGH. And our foundation used to primarily do one project at a time. The ICU is a perfect example. Now we are doing multiple projects throughout the region, not just within the hospital. So there almost isn't a department in all of the Nanaimo Regional General Hospital that has not received new equipment or money for training or construction of new areas. So we've affected almost every department. And that has created a really cool vibe in the hospital. It's not perfect. Like, my assistant had to go to ER and waited for 12 hours on the weekend. It is not perfect, but we are working really hard to change that. So we've made some really great progress, as well as at the Oceanside Health Center. We've contributed well over $1.5 million, about 1.5 million, to new projects there, as well as the 3 long-term care facilities we support, as well as supporting a lot of work in the community to raise money for recruitment of family doctors. So working in the Nanaimo Division of Family Practice, the Central Island Division of Family Practice. So we're doing a lot of stuff throughout the community. So the last 4 years, we've made a lot of progress.
Well, and this works both ways because you're actually building a stronger facilities, stronger machinery, stronger programs for the people who actually are working in the hospital.
Yeah.
So it actually makes more people in the BC region or from outside the region want to come here to work, right? Yes. I mean, it's no secret, and Nanaimo's the second fastest growing city in Canada, I think, at the time, right? So are you seeing an influx of people that are wanting to come here and sort of seeing the changes within the hospital and feeling more secure about joining the teams here?
Yes, very much. And, you mentioned Donna Hayes. She walks on water in 6-inch heels. Right. We also have Todd Maffin. Yes, great. Todd and Jocelyn are absolute forces of nature that are working really hard to help recruit healthcare workers to Central Vancouver Island. They have been so successful that their model, the infusion model, is now in, I think, 48 cities across Canada, towns and cities. That's incredible. And so they have helped Island Health, helped our community recruit an enormous amount of nurses and physicians and healthcare workers of all types, which is incredible. So you're hearing a lot more American accents in the hospital. You're hearing a lot of Quebec accents at the Oceanside Health Center, where we have all these new family doctors from Quebec. It's really neat. And so that is an energy that's being created. And we just did a big campaign around recruitment. It was very successful to help us fund this. So that's another force at play. But when people see a new ICU, another thing we just raised money for was to create one of BC's and Canada's first senior-friendly emergencies. Very unique idea. It'll open in the fall. And people are attracted to that. There's there's cool stuff going on because Nanaimo's different. It's gritty. We want to do stuff. We're going to be different. There's a great term that I love, that austerity drives innovation.
That's great.
And that's very much what's happened. So people, that's a certain vibe. And some people are really attracted to that.
There's also a younger generation here, I noticed, that are doing third-party fundraisers for you as well.
Yeah.
People are motivated to support you.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
so
Julie Hazelwood, I think it is, is doing
Julie
the Dinner
Hazelwood
on Blanc. So I see that. I see that these younger generations see the importance of building stronger healthcare, but they're not just sitting around on their laurels expecting it. They're actually contributing and trying to participate to support you guys.
They're showing up and say, what can we do? Maybe a couple months ago, this very beautiful young mother walked in the foundation with a child and chatting at the front desk and dropping off a check, which we love. Right. And I always ask, so what was that? Well, it was a local business and they'd had a really good year, and they came in and dropped a $10,000 check off. Mm-hmm. Young family with their own business, and they did that. I'm like, wow.
Mm-hmm. Well, they care about the community.
That's phenomenal.
They say it takes a village, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked a little bit here about advocacy and change, right? What are other projects in the hospital? What are other projects the Hospital Foundation is working on right now? We've got a little list here. So can we talk about the robotic surgery? What's that?
Well, this is a this is a little insider scoop because we were not publicly launched on that yet, but we will be developing a campaign this winter for very cutting edge technology. So we are going to bring robotics to Nanaimo.
Great.
And if you told me that 4 years ago, I would have thought you were crazy. But we're at a place now where we can do it. And so this is for urological and gynecology. I can never pronounce it. Gynecological surveys or surgeries, as well as ear, nose, and throat, and a number of surgeries. It allows for a much more precise operation, a much faster operation, and a much faster recovery time. So it actually enables people to go home directly and don't have to stay in the hospital after a major surgery. So it's very exciting. And back to the recruitment piece, it enables us to recruit the younger urologists and the younger ENT docs, surgeons, who this is all they've trained on. So they're called Da Vinci robots. They are terrifyingly expensive. It's $5 million for 3 years. And it's all the equipment that goes with it and the training. It's a big deal. They got this in place in Victoria 2 years ago. They now have 3 of them. But in Vancouver, that was in 2007. So 19 years later, we're doing it here. But it's great because it helps us recruit in that area, which is really exciting. We're also working on a very interesting a treatment. It's a abstinence-based detox in Parksville. So it's a Parksville Treatment Center.
Yes, the Parksville Treatment Center. It says 1.2 million.
Yeah, a mere 1.2 million.
Right.
So it's a 36-bed facility. It'll open in the fall. That has been a challenge to fundraise for. So it's 1.2 million. We're on the hook for 1.2 million. We promised that. We are not anywhere near that. So we're hoping there'll be a family that steps forward and say, we were affected by this and we want to support it. It is a fantastic facility because it is on the spectrum of support and rehabilitation. It's at the very far end of the spectrum. You are committing to 90 days of full lockdown for rehab. And these are a lot of people who are working. They have families. They're working. A lot of people in the trades and construction who want to get back on with their lives. And so we want to support that.
Of course. I can imagine there might be some challenges getting that into the community.
Yeah.
Not every community, it's that NIMBY kind of thing, like not in my backyard, right?
Yeah.
So how's that? Are you navigating that okay?
Yeah, it was a drama, and that was a big issue. So the facility was actually leased over 2.5 years ago, I believe. And it took about 1.5 years to get it through city, through council, through the community, all the reasons you just mentioned. And actually it turned when it's right across the street from a Berwick, Parksville. And when the Berwick community and the management said, no, we're okay with this in our community. We're okay with this across the street. And apparently that's sort of when it changed. And we now, I think once the community see it happen, it's an old hotel. It's beautifully being restored and all redone. I think it'll be good in the community. But it's not easy, to get those things through.
20 years ago, I started knocking on doors to raise money for mental health and addiction, and people were like, what is mental health addiction? Now it's everywhere, right? But I still think there's a terrible stigma, and I think people don't understand that mental health and addiction doesn't necessarily have to align with homelessness and or people that are unwell. But people can have addiction issues and be leading very successful lives, right?
And then dropping dead, because
of course.
When you look at the statistics, I think I may have this completely wrong, but over 50% of the people in 2024 who died of overdose in British Columbia were white men over the age of 42 who work in the trades, specifically in construction. Those are the people that are having overdose deaths. These are the people we want to support to get clean. And that's tough. It's very brave when someone decides to walk through that door. But those are the people that are dying. And so when we were doing, for example, to your point about mental health is one of the 6 areas of focus for our foundation. And when we were doing our strategic planning, developed the new strategic plan for the foundation 3-4 years ago, that was the one issue that every member of our board agreed to, was mental health. Let's get behind it. So we have done some work for mental health in the hospital. We have 3 psych wards to support folks dealing with mental health. But this is the first time we've stepped into this space around rehab, and it's a little tricky.
Well, and the other issue here, of course, is mental health and addiction for youth. I mean, since COVID, we've seen such an uptake on these kids that are struggling. I'm not sure that cell phones are helping. That's a whole other maybe interview. But I've been focused on youth and mental health and addiction for the past 10 years, and the numbers are staggering. And in Nanaimo, it is actually on par per capita to Vancouver. Yeah, that's hard, right?
It's absolutely staggering.
Yeah.
But you're involved with the Foundry and support for the Foundry, and that's why the foundation is, we want to help support that as well, because those are the types of things our community needs, and all of us have to pull together to help fix these things.
Well, absolutely. And I mean, we've talked about this off of this interview, but it's impossible to tell a child that they have to wait a couple years to get the help they need. And when Foundry opens their doors, every child is going to have the immediate access to resources. It's going to be wonderful. Okay, so this, what else? Let me see, the Seniors Outpatient Clinic. What's that?
That's a neat one. One of the leaders of the hospital has a long-term vision to establish NRGH as a center of excellence in seniors care. And one of the first stages is the development of this new seniors friendly emergency that, as I say, will open in the fall. That was $1.2 million. And everything's designed to support seniors. So, and very focused on 75 plus. The next stage of that is to support seniors who need wound care, who may need an infusion, and to help them not have to come into the hospital. So we're setting this up on Grant Street, just off on our site, on the NRGH 32-acre site, but it's got its own parking. Right. It's easy to get to.
Yeah, the parking.
You're not walking into the hospital, and so it's a very nice. It's a $1.2 million project. We're contributing $600,000, and it's designed for seniors, and it's to support them, to keep them out of going into the hospital and getting the care they need. Yeah, so we're excited about that project. So that's coming along.
So you can't go by the hospital these days without seeing the big building that's being built in the front. That's the cancer.
Cool. That's the new Nanaimo Cancer Center.
So what's that about?
That is a fantastic initiative. As I said earlier, it's going to help people not have to take their loved one to Victoria or drive themselves to Victoria to get radiation therapy. We have not had that. This is separate. We are hosting it on the hospital site. And it is BC Cancer. The BC Cancer Agency is running it. It is their facility. And their staff and their technology, but a lot of interface with Island Health and NRGH. The fundraising for that is through the BC Cancer Foundation, and they're very successful, over 10 million, I believe, so far. We are supporting that. We have had many donors who've stepped forward to support that through us. It's going to have 4 radiation bunkers with absolutely state-of-the-art radiation therapy equipment. Is really cool what's coming, as well as that's where the chemotherapy will be delivered. So again, expanding that, which is terrific, as well as consultation and a lot of the other supports for people to provide their 360-degree support for people on their cancer journey. So we're really excited about that. We are also supporting Island Health and NRGH become the host site. So we last year received a gift of over $1 million to buy new surgical equipment related to cancer. So we are equipping the hospital to support what will be a lot more patients coming to NRGH for cancer-related surgeries, cancer-related care. At some point, we're going to have to build a cancer ward. If people need to be hospitalized during their cancer treatment, they need special rooms. You have to be isolated, et cetera. It can't be in one of our 4-bed wards in the old patient tower. So we've got quite a bit of work to do there as well. And again, it's really exciting to see this come to our community.
Sounds great. So we have about 5 minutes left. Time goes by pretty quickly. I know it's terrible, but I do want to, this is a really strong message here, and I want to read this. It says, the Nanaimo and District Hospital Foundation has quadrupled its fundraising in the last 3 years. And you spoke earlier. You were saying that is due to the community getting together. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. So what keeps Barney up at night?
Well, that it'll all stop. I think one of the biggest things is right now, we are the only community in British Columbia to be approved for concept planning for a patient tower and a cardiac catheterization lab. That is a really big deal, and that is directly related to the community standing up and the Fair Care Alliance, as we've talked about. So that's great, and they're expediting the process. It usually takes 18 months to try and do it in 12. It's a partnership with the regional hospital district who are paying for it. It's incredible that it's happening. My worry is that the studies get done and it sits on a shelf. There was a study done, and a concept plan was put forward in 2022, and the government Ministry of Health picked out the cancer center, and didn't do the whole thing. The rest of it was supposed to be the patient tower then. So my worry is that happens. My worry is we don't get approval to move forward on the cardiac catheterization lab. We absolutely have to do it. There is money in Ottawa. There's a $5 billion fund. We are actively in Ottawa seeking and lobbying for that money. But we need provincial approval. We need the province to put their list forward to the government, and that hasn't happened for any project in British Columbia. There's $223 million allocated for British Columbia as a match from the federal government, which is the first time in 50 years for hospital funding. I stay awake at night worrying we're not going to trigger that match. We have our we're going after $60 million from them. It's $120 million to build absolutely state-of-the-art Nanaimo Cardiovascular Intervention Center. It's freestanding build on the campus, connected to our emergency room. I worry every night that that's not going to happen, that we're just not going to get the approvals. We have a groundswell of support for it, but there's still things that can get in our way. So those are the things that keep me up at night.
So what can people do to be informed and engaged to ensure that we all get the changes and the healthcare we need?
Well, as you say, do a search for Fair Care Alliance.
Sign the petition.
Sign up there. Sign up for our newsletter at the Nanaimo District Hospital Foundation's website. We have a monthly e-newsletter that keeps you up to date. We also have a podcast, and there's 6 episodes from last year. We just in the middle. Our first one is launched, and actually the first episode is Donna in conversation with another one of our fearless volunteers about advocacy and about what this community needs to do. Listen to that podcast and get involved, and keep yourself apprised of healthcare. Like we opened with, right? Like, who researches healthcare in their community? We assume as Canadians all available. Make no assumptions. Become smart about it. Understand what's going on. Talk to your neighbors and really talk. Like, don't just be on the surface and complain, but find out what's really underneath it, what's going on, and how people can help. And ask what you can do. And call us. We'd love to talk.
Right. So I always ask my guests, we've got a couple minutes here, barely, but is there any message that you'd like to give to the audience before we close today?
We live in one of the most spectacular places in the world. And a lot of us live here because nature and we want to be healthy and do all those things. Take really good care of yourself.
Nice message. All right, so that's it for today. Barney, thank you so much for coming out. Again, this is Barney Ellis-Perry, the Executive Chief Officer of NRGH. Please go to Fair Care Alliance, sign the petition. Thank you all for tuning in, and I will look forward to seeing you all next time. Thank you.